A service station manager shot during a robbery. The giant kite tradition continues at Paris Hill. And in sports, Mary Fraser takes her third gold at the Carifta Track Championships.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
A very good evening to you. I'm Sophia Cambridge with this Easter Monday, April 6th edition of the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, it's a sad one. Armed bandits shot the manager of the Saul 6 Roads gas station as they robbed the business just before 1 o'clock this morning. Kishmar Saint-Just has the details.
According to an employee who was there when it happened, the gas station had just closed when a car with several men drove in.
We were standing up waiting to get a drop home.
So everything was closed off?
Everything was closed off. And her car came in. The window behind the passenger seat was rolled down and we saw this man with a mask over his face. Only his eyes were out. And he told us he wanted the money. And we saw a gun. So when we saw the gun, we ran in the back and we locked the door. And they came by the door and they said to open the door, open the door, open the door. We didn't open the door. Then we heard a gunshot.
Police tell CBC News the manager received a non-life-threatening gunshot injury to one of his feet. The employee says it was a terrifying ordeal.
All the staff started to cry. Staff were hysterical. Couldn't calm them down. One girl started screaming, she don't want to die, she don't want to die. It's an experience that you will never forget.
The robbers were eventually able to make off with an undisclosed sum of money as well as the manager's car. The injured manager was taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for treatment. Police say investigations are ongoing. Kishmar Saint-Just, CBC News.
Thank you, Kishmar. 10 people were injured when a route taxi and a car collided at Blackrot Main Road in St. Michael this morning. The injured, including 8 passengers, complained of various injuries and were transported to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital via ambulance. 35-year-old Derek Waterman was the driver of the route taxi, and the other vehicle was driven by 42-year-old Junior Aline of St. Barnabas and St. Michael. Both drivers sought medical attention privately. Well, the community at Paris Hill and St. Joseph was abuzz with activity again this year as an annual tradition of hoisting giant kites on the Easter holiday continued. Ryan Broom was there and he has the story.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but at Paris Hill and St. Joseph today, it took a village to raise a 35-foot kite. It took about 4 weeks of planning this time around, from cutting bamboo to making the bones to pasting up the kites. There were 2 of them, the main 35-foot kite and the backup 32-foot kite. Kite maker and organizer of the event, Nilo Maskell, says sponsors, Marshall Trading, Williams Equipment, CO Williams and other key contributors made it possible.
Last year we did something like 28 and 30 feet. Now we're doing 32 and we're doing 35 feet. And it is a whole lot of material like rope and that sort of thing. It's a lot more than last year.
Meanwhile, the 35-foot kite sustained some damage in its first flight attempt, leaving the 32-foot kite to take center stage. That one eventually flew, much to the delight of the crowd, even if only for just a few minutes. In the meantime, the scores of people who attended this event in the past or for the first time this year continue to give it the thumbs up.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great experience. What I love personally is the team effort that they brought together to bring it to this point.
It's smart and it does draw a big crowd. It could be used to raise funds for the area and the people that live in the area. As you can see around all the stalls and all the different people selling, it was a good idea.
Ryan Broom, CBC News.
Well, in the meanwhile, over at West Harris and St. James, residents from surrounding communities gathered at the popular ridge overlooking the west coast. That's where a special Easter Monday event was hosted by Member of Parliament for St. James South, Donville Innes. He says the event, which is now in its 6th year, has helped to maintain the tradition of kite making in Barbados, which according to him is becoming somewhat of a dying art. He says it also provides an environment for families to interact in a wholesome way, engaging in games of all kinds or simply enjoying the relaxing atmosphere. The event started in the early afternoon and continued well into the evening. In other news now, mediation legislation is on the cards for Barbados, and it's a mechanism that Attorney General and Minister of Home Affairs Adriel Brathwaite supports. He says it can help reduce the backlog of court cases.
I do actually have on my desk a paper to take to Cabinet with respect to the drafting of new legislation. I have paused because of our engagement in terms of whether or not I would want to go ahead and let our own people do the drafting, when in fact that you're doing a regional initiative, and that's why I have not yet submitted it to Cabinet. But I do appreciate that there's a significant role to be played by mediation and by persons who are trained, so that we can have quicker and easier access to justice.
Well, Mr. Brathwaite was at the time addressing the opening of a training course for community mediators that was organised by the Impact Justice Project with funding from the Government of Canada. He's of the view that there's a need for more education to get the public to embrace mediation. Regional Director for the Improve Access to Justice Project, Professor Velma Newton, says a large component of the project is alternative dispute resolution.
ADR comprises arbitration, mediation, conciliation, and restorative justice. And we are looking currently at how we could use those mechanisms to improve access to justice, especially for the poor and disadvantaged and CARICOM communities. Mediation is probably one of the most well-used, widely used ADR mechanisms.